Hi everyone, my name is Shireen. I'm working with NAFCC. I'm going to give us a few more minutes just in case anybody else wants to sign in with us. Okay. So I know that this says that it's presented by Marissa, but it's actually written by Marissa, and I'm obviously going to be presenting it tonight. So welcome to the Getting Started with Self-Study question and answer session. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. The goal of this webinar is to walk through each part of your self-study kit to explain what each piece is and how to use it. As we walk through each piece, feel free to ask questions, and at the very end of the presentation, there will be time for more questions about the self-study as a whole. We know that many providers are excited to start their accreditation journey, and once they get the actual kit in their hands, they tend to freeze after seeing how much information is in there and don't quite know where to start. This webinar was created to help alleviate some of those nerves and to give you an understanding of everything that you have in your binder, as well as a place for helping you understand a good place to start. So I'm going to just take a moment. I'd like to see who is here and where you're from. So this is also a way that I can make sure that you're hearing me well. So if you can, in your question box, go ahead and type your name and where you're from. That would be great, and I'll read out the answer so everyone can kind of know who's here. Judy is here from Tulsa. Hi, Judy. Thanks for coming tonight. Stacy is here from Colorado. That's not too far from us. We're in Utah. Tanya is here from Huntsville, Alabama. Terry is here from St. Louis, Missouri. It's great to have all of you guys here tonight. Candace is here from Fort Bliss, Texas. I don't know where that is. Michelle is here from Michigan. I'm excited to have so many people present tonight. There's a few more people here. Twyla is here from Florida. Hi, Twyla. All right, well, that's most of you. Anybody who's just joining us, you're just typing your name and your location. Hi, this is Julie from Los Angeles, California. All right, you can still type it in if you haven't gotten to it yet, if you needed a minute. As I see them pop up, I'll introduce you to the group as well and say hi, but I'm gonna start moving forward with our presentation now. It seems like everybody's able to hear me decently well. If you do have any issues with that, just type it up here in the question box and I'll see it over there. All right. So the first part of your self-study kit is the binder. The 3-ring binder will have a cover similar to this one, and with the name of the organization and the accreditation seal. On the back of the binder, you will find our address and contact information. This binder will be used to keep all of your materials organized, safe, and in one location. If you happen to have another binder where you keep your materials, you're free to use that. but we wanted to provide this one as a tool so that everybody would have one. When you first open up your binder, the very first document that you're going to find is a welcome letter. We want to congratulate you on this big step in starting your accreditation. We know that it can be daunting and confusing. So in this letter, we've included the 3 best ways that you can find out more information and guidance if you get stuck. First is the NAFCC Accreditation Candidates in Process Facebook page. On this webpage, you can interact with other providers who are currently going through the self-study process, as well as other providers that have gone through it already before, and they can help with your questions. The accreditation program coordinators facilitate the page and also help answer questions and give updates about upcoming webinars and additional information that you might want to know about NAFCC. And a little bit later, we're going to look at our website, and I'll show you where you can find the link for that Facebook page. It's a really great resource for you to be able to talk to people going through it and also people that have already gone through it. The second resource is our accreditation@nafcc.org email. This can be used for basic questions that will be responded to by one of the program coordinators or receptionists here at NAFCC. So that email, accreditation@nafcc.org, is an email that all of us on the accreditation team have access to. We all see the emails that come in, and it's the best way to contact us for anything that you need. Questions, turning in documentation, anything like that. You're going to want to send it to the accreditation@nafcc.org email, just because you'll get answers faster because everybody can see it and contribute to it. And then your final resource listed on this letter is our phone number. So the 801-886-2322 is the phone number for just our main line. It will give you some different options that you can choose: membership, accreditation, that sort of thing. If you type extension 3196, then you're going to get Marissa, and Marissa is the person who kind of runs the self-study program. So she's a great resource for you while you're going through this step of the process. Anybody have any questions about that? At any time, if you have questions, just type it in the question box. I'm keeping my eyes on it, so I'll see and answer them as soon as I'm able to. All right, next page. Underneath the welcome letter, you're going to find the Oh, hi, Vanessa. Where are you from? Oh, from Oregon. Vanessa joined us from Oregon. I didn't realize the tablet didn't have that option. That's interesting. That's very interesting, actually. We should work on fixing that, huh? Underneath the welcome letter, you're going to find the Getting Started in Self-Study, Easy as 1, 2, 3 document. This letter includes our recommendations for what your first 3 steps should be. So this is that where to start kind of guide. We will come back to this as it will make more sense after getting to know each of the materials inside of your binders. All right. After those first couple of introductory documents, you should have 6 copies of this book, The Parent Guide to NAFCC Accreditation. The Parent Guide to NAFCC Accreditation is meant to be shared with the parents in your program so that they can get an understanding of what it means when you tell them, I'm working on my accreditation. The Parent Guide briefly covers what NAFCC is and what an NAFCC accreditation is and why they should choose nationally accredited childcare as their child's choice in care. It also covers how they can help you achieve your accreditation and how they can become advocates for family childcare. We hope that as they read this guide, they'll be excited about the benefits that they'll see in their child's daycare experience, such as the improved communication you'll have with them or the new additions to your program that you'll implement. You can also start sharing these guides with your parents once you have a basic enough understanding of what you'll be doing with self-study and your accreditation. This is a really great resource. It's great for your parents to be able to understand the process you're going through and to be able to support you through that. So we highly recommend that you share it with the parents and help them understand what you're doing. And it's also really great because later in your process, when you're getting your observation and doing your paperwork for that, your parents will all have to fill out surveys, which are really important. You actually really can't be accredited without having your parent surveys filled out. And so involving them from the beginning allows them to understand the process as you're going through it and to be more on board with providing those parent surveys. All right, so the next book that you will find is your binder. In your binder is the Benchmarks to Quality Spiral Bound book. Benchmarks to Quality is where you are going to find all of the quality standards. They're divided into 4 levels. Level 1 being the easiest of standards to complete, and level 4 being the most difficult. Basically, it is your workbook that will help make sure that you know and understand all of the standards that are required for accreditation. It will help you measure your progress as you work on each standard. This is like the gold currency in accreditation. This book is filled start to finish with all of the things that you kind of get measured on when your observer comes to visit and throughout the accreditation process. So this is a book you're going to want to know inside and out. Part 1 of our accreditation series which is the webinar that will be presented in a couple of weeks, goes through this book in detail, as it is the meat and potatoes of the self-study kit and takes quite a while to go through. But just for basic definition, know that this book will help you learn all of the quality standards and help you make a plan to meet all of them. So this is #1 priority, a book that you want to learn and know inside out. All right. If you're interested in seeing all of the standards in one place rather than jumbled up, we do offer a PDF file on our website that lists them in numerical order. So if you take the next webinar, then you'll have a chance to see how the inside of the benchmarks book is set up. But it can be a little bit confusing. The benchmarks book is set up by level. So like it said, all of the easiest standards are in the first section, and it keeps going through each section to the hardest standards. They're not in order of number. So you're going to have 1.3 in the first level, and then in level 2 you're going to have 1.1. You know, they're not in order like that. The numbers won't look quite right because we wanted to make it easier for you to start at the easiest and then move your way up as you're working through those standards to make sure they're in your program. But if you want to see them in the numerical order, which will go 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, just in direct order and not according to level, then this is where you're going to want to go. You will go right here where it says NAFCC Accreditation Quality Standards with 2017 updates. So this is where you're going to go if you want to see them in actual numerical order as opposed to the leveled order that we have for you in your benchmarks book. They're both the same standards, they're just organized different. Do we have any questions there? All right, moving on. And this is at our website. Just in case you aren't aware, our website is nafcc.org. So pretty easy to remember. Just remember the .org. All right. All right, following the parent guides and the benchmarks to quality, you're going to find a stack of loose leaf papers entitled The Provider Guide to Achieving NAFCC Accreditation. This publication is a how-to manual to help you work through and achieve accreditation. Its chapters are going to explain in depth what accreditation is and why it's important. It's going to explain what are the quality standards and how to use them. how to use the benchmarks to quality, how to fill out your application and prepare for your observation visit, and what to do to maintain your accreditation, as well as how to create a professional portfolio and market your program. Remember, getting started with the self-study easy as 1, 2, 3 document that I showed you at the beginning. If you want to refer back to it, it lists the reading of the provider guide as the first step to understanding accreditation. This is because it gives you a very basic overview of every single part of the accreditation. If you're still struggling to understand the accreditation process after reading the provider guide, or just wanting more detailed information about each phase of the process, please visit our accreditation webinar page on our NAFCC.org website to access our other webinars that will take you through each step of the process in more detail with opportunities to ask questions. In just a minute, we're going to hop out of the presentation so I can walk you through the website's eSelf-Study feature. I will show you how to use and find those webinars if you don't already know how to do that. So all of the webinars are recorded and you're able to access them at any time, even if you don't watch one live like you're doing right now. Does anybody have any questions so far? I want to make sure I'm giving you the opportunities to ask. Okay, so it doesn't look like it. Oh, here, the inside of the book. The benchmarks to quality book. The provider guide. So I don't actually have a copy with me, but I can show you the online version in just a moment when we go to the website, okay? All right, so we'll look at that in just one moment. For now, let's go to the next slide here. So behind the provider guide, you're going to see the labeled tabs and sheet protectors. These are provided to help protect and store the documents that you'll collect as you work through the self-study. The ones where I have placed asterisks are ones that have standards that correspond to them. So even if you decide not to use these tabs or use them a bit differently, make sure that you have these documents organized and available for when your observer comes to visit you, since they will ask to look at them. The tab that I get the most questions about is the Family Records tab. What that refers to is any information that you have about a family in your program. For example, you could put a family's culture, you could put a child's allergies, you could put any like behaviors that you need to remember about the child, or disabilities or anything like that can go into that tab. Any information you have about the family or child belongs there. Okay, so this is just another way to help you to organize your binder. And these are all documents that at different stages you're going to want to have created and have available for your observers when they come to observe. And I know it's overwhelming and daunting, but if you follow through the self-study kit, it's going to help you get there anyway. Okay, so Judy asked, how many months should you request for a renewal package and submit it before your expiration date? So if you're already accredited and you want to get reaccredited, you're going to want to, is that what you're asking for, Judy, is about getting reaccredited? Yes, okay. So if you're going to get reaccredited, we advise people to submit their stuff 6 months before your expiration date of your accreditation, because it is quite a strenuous process, start to finish, to get through your application, make sure all the documents are there, and then you come over to me and I go through all of your, I get your observation scheduled, and that in and itself usually takes 2 to 3 months to get scheduled. And then once you get the document, the observation finished, all of your documents in, all of your observers' documents in, then you go to scoring. And that can be another 4 to 6 weeks to score till you're going to get your actual accreditation decision. So we always recommend about 6 months, no later than 5 months before your accreditation is going to expire, that you have all of your stuff in. And then something that's really important to remember after you turn in your application, we often communicate by email. And so if there's something missing from your application, or we need more documents of some sort, what you're going to get is an email that says that we need those. And while we do try to follow up with phone calls and further emails later, it's on you guys to make sure that you're responding to that in a timely fashion so that your application can continue to get processed. Something that happens often that we see is that, you know, you turn in your application in November, and when we check it in the next week or two, you are missing something. And so we send out the email that says that you're missing something, and then we don't get anything from you for 2 more months. And then everyone, you know, 2 months later, you're now at a point where your accreditation is about to expire, but we can't push observation visits any faster or push scoring any faster, and then you'll end up with a gap in your accreditation. So it's really important. 6 months beforehand is really the best time to turn all of your stuff in. And once you do that, make sure that you're checking your email regularly, communicating regularly, so that you're not one of those people that's just sitting there for 2 months while we're waiting for information from you. Does that help you out, Judy? Perfect, thank you. Okay, so let's move on. Oh, hey, look here. Any questions other than about when to turn in your stuff for renewal? Or if you have more questions about that. All right, so I'm going to keep moving on. If you think of a question, remember you can just type it in at any time, and I'll answer it when I see it. When you email, okay, so Terry's asking, when we email it, is it the NAFCC logo at the beginning of the email, or is it a person? So that can depend. There's 3 different ways that you can get emails. You could get, we have like automated emails that go out to like remind people of their updates and remind them of their accreditation expiring and things like that. Those actually come from our system called Salesforce. And I actually am not 100% sure what they look like because they're automated, so we don't see them. Then if I sent you, like if you were talking to me directly about something and I sent you something, it's not going to say, the only place you're going to see NAFCC is on my email address. And my email address is shireen@nafcc.org. Other than that, I don't have like a letterhead in my email or anything. So you could just look for that NAFCC in the email address. And then the other way that you might see be getting emails is like from the accreditation email, or we have an accounting email and we have a membership email. So those emails are again going to have a different title on them and are not on any kind of stationery or anything or template, that you'll just again have to look for that nafcc.org on the email address. So ideally, when you start getting emails from us, you want to mark those in your email as, you know, what's the word, a trusted email, and so that it continues to go to your correct box. But if you are expecting emails from us, if you've turned in your application and you're watching for the email that says that you've completed it or that you need to turn in some more documentation, you're going to want to watch your spam box as well. Especially the Salesforce emails tend to get lost in people's spam boxes a lot. And the other email is scoring at NAFCC. So when you get to the scoring point, sometimes people forget to fill out all the questions, or they forget to send enough parent surveys or something like that. The scoring department will then send you an email, and it could again be from like hsantiago at nafcc.org, or it will be from scoring at nafcc.org. And those are emails you want to pay attention to as well. That's also where you're going to get your decision email. So yeah, you're not going to be able to rely on having an NAFCC logo. I know some emails do have them. We do have some template emails that we use through Salesforce, but most of the time, I think our interactions might not have a logo for NAFCC. They might just have the email. Yes, so Terry was saying she received an email that says that we received the documents, but not confirming that we received everything that you needed. So let me tell you a little bit about how the mail and email works. When you send in something, if you fax it, if you email it to accreditation at nafcc.org, or if you mail it in the mail, we do everything electronically. So what happens is we get an email or with your documents in it. We're going to download that, put it on your account in Salesforce, and then we're going to send you an email that says that we received it. But what that means is that we just received it. We have not checked it for accuracy yet. So we receive your documents, and we want to email people. I think especially because there's still a lot of people that send things through mail. And we get the mail. It's actually my job currently when I get the mail every day, and then we scan it into the computer, and it goes on your electronic file. And then we just keep the paper files for 3 months. We don't actually use a lot of the paper stuff. We scan it all into the electronic system. And so we want to make sure that you know that we've received it, and kind of try to give you a bit of a timeline on that, a decision for that. But it's not going to say that we've received everything. What you'll get is an email from Fernanda is the person currently that works mostly with updates and applications. And so you'll get an email from her saying your application has been completed, and you'll get a call to schedule your visit, or you'll get an email that says, we're missing these items, please send these as soon as possible. Things like that. So that first email that you received, Terry, is just the email letting you know that we've received your documentation, but it's not been checked yet. So you might be missing something. I don't know what documents you've sent already, but those are it will be checked by whoever's in that department, and then they will let you know if it's completed or if it's missing something. You can follow up with the phone call, especially if you feel like you've been waiting quite a while. I believe the turnaround for applications is 2 to 4 weeks that we're trying to get them completed. We always aim for the shorter amount of time, but we have to have that range in there just because things can get overloaded and swamped when different times when there's a lot of people putting stuff in. So it doesn't hurt to follow up with a phone call. But I think you might wait till the end of the time frame that is in the email that you received. So the email that you received that says we've received your documents, it should have said, you should hear something within 2 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that. So I would wait that amount of time before you call. You can also email the accreditation at nafcc.org to follow up with that too. And like I said, we all will see that. And so if it's an application, Fernanda will then be able to respond to it. If it's about an observation, I would respond to it. If it's about self-study, Marissa would respond to it. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to call. Calling can be difficult. We've had a bit of a short staffing situation. So I always recommend if you do call, leave a message. I know it can feel like we're not calling back, but we do work really hard to keep up with our phone. We just have a very large call volume. So email is probably where you're going to get the fastest answers. But yeah, it's definitely on you to follow up. If you haven't heard anything, if you think you might have missed an email or something, you definitely want to follow up in some way. Does that help you out, Terry? All right, so we're gonna move. Oh, Vanessa wants to know if we're gonna talk about the application process, because you are almost done with your self-study. So good for you getting through that. The application process we really don't go into with much detail in this one or the next webinar. Actually, I think, let me check the calendar. I think there might be an application webinar tomorrow, Vanessa. Let me look at the calendar here. Yeah, so tomorrow's webinar is about the application process more specifically and kind of goes into detail with that. So I definitely recommend tuning in if you can. Otherwise, yeah, otherwise you can look at the recorded version that I'm going to show you, I think, in the next slide or two. Terry, you received confirmation November 26th, and it said someone will follow up in 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, by this point you should have heard something, Terry. What I can do is take down your information. If you want to give me your phone number or email address, and tomorrow I can check on that in the office and see what's going on with that. Tomorrow the webinar is, let me look. Oops. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Tomorrow's webinar is at 6:30 to 7:30 Mountain Time. And yes, Vanessa, it is a very long process. Vanessa has been working on it over a year, and you had a baby a year ago, so you've been quite busy. All right, thank you, Terry. I'm gonna write that information down right here, and I will get with you tomorrow about that. Most likely, it does mean that there's something that you need to do, but I will check. I think they haven't been pushing the emails, the webinars quite as much, but when we go on the website here, I can show you where you can see what webinars are coming up to help with that. So I don't know why they might not have sent an email out yet, but I do know that they are trying to reconfigure the way we do webinars, and so maybe they didn't get one sent out. Is it under your name, Terry? All right, so I got that. Yeah, so Vanessa, I'll show you when we get on the website in just a couple minutes where you can see where the webinars are. And then I do think sometimes they send them out on the day of. I'm just not 100% sure because I don't do the emails for the webinars, so I'm not totally sure what their process is. All right, so we're going to move on a little bit more. If you think of any other questions, just pipe up and I will address them. You guys have great questions. The last few I've done have been so silent. Okay, so if you go back to the front of your binder, in the front flap, behind the accreditation candidates in process sticker, you will see a copy of this letter, which is an invitation to access your eSelf-Study portal. If you provided an email with your eSelf-Study enrollment form, you will have access to your self-study materials online. If you didn't provide an email, I highly suggest that you do, because like I said, that's one way that we do a lot of communication, and it's kind of the quickest way to get communication. I now want to point, at this point, we're going to go out of the PowerPoint presentation to walk you through how to enter our website and access these materials. I can probably find a copy of it for you, Vanessa. Vanessa asked if we can get that letter again if you don't have it. I'm sure that we have an electronic copy somewhere. Unfortunately, I can't access it from home, but if you want to put your email address up here in the question box, then I will make a note that I also need to send you a copy of this letter. Vanessa Brown. Is that Little Swans Childcare KF? Kind of hard to see there. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I have your email down too, Vanessa, and I will find that electronic copy of that and send it to you tomorrow. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go over to the website. So this is our website, NAFCC.org. It's catching up with me. There we go. All right, so when you're on this website, one thing, I don't know if this will work, but let me try. Each of these words at the top here are kind of pop-down menus. So you can see if I hover over it, all of these things pop down. There it is. All of these things pop down here. And this is where you're going to find a lot of the information about your accreditation and the accreditation process. So what we would click on here is the second one, which says My Self-Study. So you would go to NAFCC.org, hover over accreditation, and go to My Self-Study. Okay, once here, you're going to come to log in to eSelf-Study. Sorry, I'm not the great at drawing with this pen. Or the greatest. But right here is where we're going to click the login to eSelf-Study. Okay, so once you do that, you're going to log in with your email address and password, which is NAFCC 2019. So that's kind of the same password for everybody. Mine's going to look a little bit different because I'm an administrator, but sometimes when you log in, you're going to see how it went back to the front page, and that's normal. Sometimes it just does that. It goes back to the front page. So you would just go back in the way we already did, the accreditation and My Self-Study, and go to the login to eSelf-Study again. Only this time you'll already be logged in. So this is what you're going to see when you log in on this time. All right. So the first thing I want to point out here is, as you can see, is that we have all of our webinars right here. So the one that we're doing tonight is this one, the Getting Started with Self-Study Q&A. So that's the one that we have going on tonight. The next the next one in the series is the Welcome to Self-Study, and that's the one that walks through the benchmarks really specifically, and helps you kind of be in the provider guide a little bit more, and just kind of helps you know how to get through that specifics of the self-study kit. Then we have one, the most missed standards, which we always recommend that you take things that tend to be overlooked often. So you'll definitely want that. And then here's the application one, the accreditation application one. So Vanessa, if you didn't end up being able to attend tomorrow, you could log into your eSelf-Study and watch it here. It just will be a video. Always, if you watch a video, you can email accreditation@nafcc.org with any questions that you had while watching that video as well. And then we have the no-fail observation and preparing for your update. And an update is another really important part of your accreditation that happens 18 months after you become accredited. And that's something that's often forgotten as well. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention. That's a really good webinar to attend so that you're prepared. All right, so then I'm going to point you to this section here. So this is just about once every 4 to 6 weeks, this will change, this standard. It's one of the standards that's in your benchmarks book, and also in just the normal book that's in numerical order. Excuse me. So this is a standard that you'll be required to have for your program, and so we just take a little bit more of an in-depth look at that. And then over up here, if there is anyone who is attending that is Spanish speaking, this is the Spanish version of this whole page. So it's the self-study in Spanish for those that need it. This next section here is the Facebook page that I was talking about. So if you'd like to join that Facebook page, which we highly recommend, then you can log into your eSelf-Study and find the link right there. You can also search for the name on Facebook, NAFCC Accreditation Candidates in Process, but it might be a little bit easier if you come in and click on that link instead. All right, so over here on the left side is the provider guide. So this is what you were asking to see. Was that Terry, I think, that wanted to see the inside of this book? So I'm going to go ahead and click on one of the links so that you can kind of see what it looks like. Let's see. Here, how about we'll click on chapter 9, which is the application. Excuse me. So this should be what the inside of the actual paper book looks like as well. It's going to walk you through, this step of what you're doing, deciding when to apply, the requirements, the contact information. So this is definitely the book that you want to start with your self-study, so that you have a basic understanding already of what accreditation is and looks like and how the process goes. And you can see that it talks about each section, the payment, how to turn it in, different things that you want to think about when you're preparing for it. This is the timeline for observations. So, January 31st, if you get it in by then you're given an opportunity of a visit in April or May. So you can see that delay in months because all of our observers are volunteers, and we have them all over the country. But sometimes it's really hard to find someone in your area. Sometimes we have to make plans to fly someone out or things of that nature. So it's just really hard to get you in any earlier than the time schedule allows for. So this is what I'm talking about with being aware, having your accreditation stuff turned in for your reaccreditation at least 6 months ahead of time so that you are able to be accredited on time. So this is kind of what the whole provider guide will look like this. There's a copy of the front of the application. Let's see how it has a checklist at the bottom to help you with the application. So you could click on any one of those chapters over here. Any one of these is going to help you. It's the exact book that you have in your hands. It's just the electronic version. So you rip the book, you pour something on it, you lose it, anything like that, you can access it here. And also, there's people that just like the electronic version better, and you can do that as well. Okay. So over here, you can also see on the left side, we also have the parent guide. Right here, it's the same thing that's in your book, but again, maybe a parent wants to review it and you've already handed them all out, or they would prefer to review an online version, then it gives you access to that there. So this right here is something that we ask all of our providers to review as you're starting the self-study process in your accreditation, the NAEYC Code of Ethical Conduct. So we have actually adopted their Code of Ethical Conduct. So it's really important for you to review it, to understand kind of behavior and the ethical things that we look at and expect of our providers in their childcare programs. So we ask everybody to take a minute and look at the NAEYC Code of Ethical Conduct. I keep saying that wrong. At some point when you're starting out your accreditation. And of course, it never hurts to come back to it and check it as well. Okay, so down here, so this is the two different ways that the standards are organized. So you can see down here, this is the benchmarks to quality book. It's the exact spiral bound book that you already have. It's just the electronic version. So you can come and click on any of the levels that you'd like to review and be able to review them electronically. This section up here is actually the standards, quality standards in numerical order. So the way that works is they're each in sections. So the relationship section will be, you know, like 1.1 through 1.65, and then the environment section will be 2.1 through. So they're the numerical order. They're still divided by sections, but they're the numerical order of those standards. Whereas the benchmarks are the version that we have created to be a little bit easier for you as you're preparing for your program. And then down here is just a copy of that slide that we had previously in our presentation with all the documents that you want to have, organized into your binder. So then if we come back up over here on the right side, I just want to point out that we do have the some of the documents and pages that you might need right here. So your application is right here, the information about your observation visit, and then also the information about your update that will be required within your accreditation. So this is a great place to just get some quick links for what you need. And then you also have down here some more of the other forms, the application form, the health form, the TV form, your training license, and all of that stuff. So these are all things that you are also going to want to be aware of when you're doing the application. I'm so sorry, I don't know why I keep yawning. And then again, what I mentioned earlier is that Marissa is kind of the person in charge of self-study. She's the one who knows it all. She's the one who gets your kits together and mails them out to you. So Marissa is the person that will have the most amount of information and be able to help you with any self-study questions. Most of us are pretty familiar with the basics, but she will know things a little bit more specifically. Does anybody have any questions about this page? or how to access it. All right, so I don't see any questions. If you do think of something, then have it pop up. I know it's a lot of information relatively quickly. But like I said, this eSelf-Study is a very valuable resource for you as you're walking through the process for accreditation. So please keep that in mind. I also wanted to take you back to the NAFCC homepage and just point out to you that you can also access the standards right over here. And also the webinars are right below it. So these are two of the things that you might need to access often. And so just keep in mind that's the standards in the order like we saw on your self-study page with the numerical order as opposed to the level order. And then the webinars is where you can access all of the information about all of our webinars, not just the accreditation webinars. And if you did click on that, then you would be able to see, maybe not, the accreditation webinars, I thought. All right, so I was wrong about that. Apparently, you cannot see them on there. I apologize. But you can access the archived webinars, which you can watch at any time. Also for credit, they just come with a little quiz. All right, so I think we're good here. Let's walk back to our presentation. Oh no, it started up again. All right. If you go back to the front of your binder, oh wait, is this one I already did? Oh yes. Okay, we are at the questions page. So I know that was a lot of information and relatively quickly. Does anybody have any other questions or concerns? So Terry asked, if you attended a webinar and would like to watch it later, do you have to pay again? No. So in fact, everyone who attends a webinar should get a recorded version emailed to you so that you can watch it when you're ready, anytime that you need to. Because like, for instance, tonight we had about 35 people that were registered and only 15 have actually joined the class. So people, you can register for a class that you might not actually get to watch, and then it won't matter because you'll get it in the email. So you should get this webinar in an email, Terry. But if you didn't, any of the webinars, at least from the accreditation series, are available on your eSelf-Study. And those are all free that you can just click on and watch. So no, you should be able to watch it again whenever you need to without any charge. Carrie and is that Renate? Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Are sharing a computer, does he still get the email? Do you share an email account? Oh, the email with the video in it, you mean? So if you both registered, then yes, you would both get the email. If only one of you registered, then only one of you would get the email. Okay, so he does have a different email. Did you both register? Yes, okay. So yeah, he should get the email as well. The email just goes out to everyone. It doesn't matter if you attended or not. That is my understanding. If you don't receive it, I think it takes a couple days, but so you might want to be watching for it. But if you don't end up receiving it, you can always contact the accreditation at NAFCC.org email, and one of us will be able to help you with that. You should receive it though, and I think, don't hold me to that, but I think they told me they try to get them out within 48 hours of the webinar. So Stacey asked, on average, about how long does it take providers to do the self-study part? So pretty much the minimum is about 6 months. I think we average about a year for people to complete the self-study part. I think you are able to take up to 3 years to do it. If you take longer than 3 years, I don't know for sure, but I think you might have to start again just because the standards get updated. So Vanessa, your year is actually pretty average. And really the self-study is something you want to take your time with. The reason that we provide it is because we obviously want everyone who applies for accreditation to be able to be accredited. So the more effort and time that you spend with your self-study, the stronger your likelihood of being approved for accreditation. And I think I've been working with NAFCC since September, and I've only heard of maybe 2 people in that amount of time that didn't get accredited. So I think as long as you're diligent with working the program, then you should be pretty good with your accreditation. Judy asked if the test for this webinar for CEU credits will be posted immediately or tomorrow. I don't believe that it's immediately. I think it probably is tomorrow. I'm not sure if it's just posted or emailed to you. I should find out more about that. If you aren't able to find it, if you don't receive it in an email or you don't see it on the website somewhere or whatever, then you should definitely email accreditation@nafcc.org. And Marissa, she kind of is in charge of that email, and so she'll definitely be able to help you find that quiz, Judy, but there will be one so that you can have the CEU credits. Yes, Vanessa. Vanessa said it is daunting and time-consuming task, but hopefully worth it. I do think it's very worth it, and I do believe that it creates a strong quality program and really makes you a higher level of childcare provider. So I'm glad you were able to work through it. It is time-consuming. So let me just go through one more slide. I just want to make sure you get introduced to everybody. So this is our team, which, here we go. I'm just going to kind of introduce. So this is Alicia Platt. Alicia Platt is the accreditation manager. Yes, I will talk to you in just a second about the training and the CEUs. Let me just introduce everyone so people who don't have questions can feel free to go. So Alicia is the person that kind of runs the whole accreditation department. Fernanda is who I mentioned earlier, who runs kind of the application and update section. So she's the one that reviews the training hours that you're asking about. She's the one that reviews applications and updates. And that can be quite a large and daunting task. So it can take a little bit of time, but Fernanda's the person that you'll want to talk to if that's the stage that you're at. Below Fernanda is Marissa, and Marissa is, as I said before, the person who kind of runs the self-study department or section of accreditation. And she also is the one that is primarily responsible for the accreditation email, although we do all respond to emails that we see that pertain to our area of expertise. And then I am here at the bottom. Again, my name is Shireen, and my job is the observation portion and a little bit of the scoring portion with your accreditation. So I schedule your observers, schedule your visit. I also make sure that all of the paperwork that comes in is correct. And then I send you to scoring. And if scoring needs help or any assistance with collecting documentation, I also do that. So this is our accreditation team. If you ever have any questions, you can call or email any of us directly with this information here. Or, like I said, the accreditation at NAFCC.org is perfect for you. Okay, so that is the end of our presentation. I'm going to stay on and answer some more questions and talk to you as much as you need. But if anybody is finished, then you are free to go. There is no more presentation. Thank you for coming and attending this. Let me make sure if I'm supposed to say anything else. Definitely recommend that Facebook page. And in a couple weeks, you'll see the next accreditation series webinar that is the self-study, the next step in the series. Like I said, tomorrow is the application one. So, all right, so let's get back over to your questions. So is there specific training required for which thing are you asking, Vanessa, for your application or to be an observer or? For the application, yes. And I know that the self-study series, the next in the series, the self-study, oh my gosh, I can't remember the exact name of it, but the next webinar in the series does go through that more specifically. So that kind of ties in with Terry's question about the CEU. So training is a big deal, and it has changed a little bit more recently as we're trying to implement some new programs. So these are actually decided by the Child Care Council. Let's see. So you're on step 7.5 on the Oregon Registry online, but not sure if you need to take more courses. So I would definitely need more information to answer that question, Vanessa, because I'm not familiar with the Oregon Registry at all or what the steps mean. But what I can tell you is for a first-time accreditation, you need to have 120 hours of training. Within that 120 hours, you are required to have, I think, you're not required to have CEUs for your first accreditation, but you are required to have no more than 28 of those hours in 1 hour increments of classes. So, oh yeah, if you have closer to 400 hours, Vanessa, you should be totally fine. That sounds perfect. So the EUs, Terry, CEUs, sorry. One thing I do want to direct you to is we have a website, nafcc.org/CEU, and that can help explain it a little bit. When you're getting reaccredited, so not for your first accreditation, but when you're getting reaccredited, then we do have a CEU requirement. So you need to have 90 hours of training, and half of those, so 45 of them, need to be CEUs. And what a CEU is a continuing education unit. Essentially what it means is that courses that give you CEUs such as ours are either taught by an accredited provider or are approved by a university. So all of our accreditation webinars we sent to Auburn University, and they approved them for us to be able to teach them and give you CEU credits for them. So that's how the CEUs kind of work. And what that means is you need to have half of your training for your reaccreditation be CEU credits. Now, since that's been more recently implemented, it's actually a program that was decided on by the council 3 years ago, but there was some struggles with implementation. I do know that there's kind of a different timeline they've got for people who are already in process of reaccreditation, but as time moves forward, their leniency is going to get less and less until they're fully requiring you to have 45 CEU hours. So when you look at a CEU on a certificate, it will say this training is worth 1 hour of training or 0.1 CEU. And when we say 45, we're looking at the first one, 1 hour of training, but it still needs to say the CEU on it to be worth a CEU. So 0.1 CEU is 1 hour. So 1 CEU is 10 hours. So what you'd need is 4.5 CEUs, and that's just counting the courses as units instead of hours. I know that can be really confusing, especially because when we look at them, we do count them as hours, but they have to be CEU hours and not just regular training hours. If you have a degree, let's see, I think it's a related associate, a related or unrelated bachelor's, and a related or unrelated master's. Those are also worth a certain amount of those CEU credits for always. A degree is good for always. And so you can also factor in. I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head, but it is definitely in the next self-study webinar. So I would recommend looking at that. It should also be covered pretty well in the application webinar that's tomorrow as well. So, and then also on that NAFCC.org/CEU website is what we created that specifically for people who are struggling to kind of understand. The idea with accreditation is that you are continuing your education at all times. So when you get reaccredited, we only look at trainings for the last 3 years plus a degree. You can't continue to use the same trainings over and over again, and that's required every year that you get reaccredited, because we do want providers to continue to be educated and with the changes and things that happen within the childcare industry. Does that answer your question, Terry? You're welcome. You're welcome, Candace. I hope that you guys got all the information you need. Remember, if you have any other questions after we get off, you are more than welcome to email accreditation@nafcc.org, or me or Marissa or anybody else on the team, and we'll all help you the best that we can. I'm excited for you too, Vanessa. It's a strenuous process, but it's well worth it. Thank you, Tanya. You have a great week as well. All right. I'm going to go ahead and shut us down. It looks like nobody else has any questions right now. Feel free to email us if you do come up with some questions that you'd like to ask. And you guys have a great night, all right?